This podcast is brought to you by Doc Steals. Find the best deals on gold and silver online at sdbullion.com/deals. This week's deals include special intro pricing on 2017 gold and silver pandas, including fractional sizes on gold pandas for the first time at SD Bullion. Find the best deals on gold and silver online at sdbullion.com/deals.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with SilverDoctors.com, and with us today is Jason Burak from WallStreetForMainStreet.com. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Elijah. Congrats on your new job.
Well, thank you so much. And the first topic I'd like to discuss today is the bombshell that that was released on Friday, that the FBI is reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons why this is getting done. There's a really good video that Christopher Green from AMTV did about this, and he listed 5 different possible reasons for why. So I think your listeners would be well suited to go over there and listen to him, listen to his short video about that. But I'll summarize a few of them. I think, Comey realizes that the axe is going to fall, that people are figuring out that things are so corrupt within the American government. We've gotten to just a level of corruption that most Americans just don't understand how corrupt things are. I've lived outside of D.C. For over 15 years now, except for going to college, obviously. But I came back here on breaks, and, I was friends with a lot of these kids who were the children of lobbyists. I would hear stories, and I interned very briefly at the White House for a very short amount of time. It was an off-site building a couple blocks from the White House under George W. Bush, answering phone calls. So I saw some of the stuff, how government run. I was also a political science major, and just, the back favor deals and negotiating and the stuff that goes on, it's just disgusting. But what I would say, though, with Comey is I think he realizes that lots of people know that, Eric Holder, the previous attorney general, was enormously corrupt, that Obama appointed first. And then Loretta Lynch, all this evidence now is coming out about her corruption. And even though Loretta Lynch told Comey not to deliver the letter to Congress, right, talking about reopening of the investigation, Comey knows that he was involved in the first cover-up of the Clinton Foundation. He knows that Loretta Lynch blocked any investigation into the Clinton Foundation. We know this from WikiLeaks, and Comey is trying to save his own ass. So I think first and foremost, that's probably the main reason. And I think, this opens the door wide open for Trump. We also have with the FBI, because Democrats and Hillary Clinton, a couple of months ago, they were congratulating the FBI for not doing their job and closing the investigation and not pursuing criminal charges against Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation over the private email server and all those other things. But, now when the FBI goes and does their job, now the Democrats are saying, oh, they're Russian spies. Oh, they're way too partisan. It's too late in the election for them to do this. Well, the FBI should have done their job like this in the first place many, many months ago. So now, Elijah, we have, as retaliation for the Democrats bashing the FBI, not only have they reopened the investigation into Clinton, and there's additional evidence. I believe there's over 650,000 emails that were on Anthony Weiner's computer. So it's going to take them a long time to go through these. But they also just dumped through the Freedom of Information Act. They had been holding this, their old investigation into the Clinton Foundation. They just released this yesterday and the day before. So the FBI now on their Twitter feed, you can go and look at all of their old research and redacted stuff from the Clinton Foundation from prior investigations over the years, I think starting back in 2001. So if you go, the Twitter comments from the brainwashed Hillary Clinton supporters, the people who, in spite of her 30 years of committing felonies, in spite of all the crimes that Hillary Clinton has potentially committed, they're saying that Donald Trump is as bad or worse than Hillary Clinton. It's just unbelievable. I mean, it's like comparing someone that committed a speeding violation or two to someone that's been a career felon for decades. Let me just list off a couple of possible crimes, and these are only a few. Some of these are going to be hard to prove, but this is just some of the evidence that has come out in the WikiLeaks, in the 25 or 26 days worth of WikiLeaks evidence that we have for some of the stuff going on. Okay, So we have, I jotted this down on my notes. I put it on Twitter. I wanted to make sure I list at least 5 legitimate crimes that that a lawyer could potentially prove in court. And this doesn't count, 30 years of crimes. Okay, so we have obstruction of justice. That one is very easy to prove compared to the other ones. That comes, with a couple year, it's a felony charge, couple year prison sentence. Okay, we have perjury. Okay, we have perjury, where she made all these excuses for her gross negligence of handling of classified information. Okay, we have Abedin committing perjury basically too. Okay, we got RICO charges now. We got RICO charges because the Clinton Foundation is basically set up as an organized crime family. The former assistant director of the FBI and former prosecutors are even saying that the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton family is basically an organized crime family. Okay, we have violation of the U.S. Espionage Act. Okay, now she may not have intentionally handed over classified or higher top secret information to foreign governments or anything like that. But in the law, Elijah, for the U.S. Espionage Act, if you're grossly negligent with classified information or top secret or higher information, if you're grossly negligent with this key information for a country, you have violated the U.S. Espionage Act. So if this were you or me, a 4-star general, anyone below Hillary Clinton, we would be almost guaranteed prison time. There would be no way to avoid prison time. It would be very tough for us to ever get a job again, etc. And the last one is treason. When you add up all of these different things together in totality, I mean, she's been looking for ways to, there's good evidence now that she's been engineering a coup with, the mainstream media. There's over 65 journalists that did not disclose their private relationship with Hillary Clinton, that were going to dinners with her and her campaign manager, not because they were necessarily friends, but because they were basically a focus group. And they were probably bribed in addition to, getting nice fancy dinners and maybe promised other additional perks. And they were asked, how can we improve Hillary's likability so we can get her elected? And, they didn't disclose as good journalists, if you're going to do unbiased, objective, investigative journalism, which this country doesn't really have that much anymore. If you're going to go to one of these dinners, you have to disclose it. You shouldn't be going to these dinners in the first place if you're going to be an objective, unbiased, non-political hack. But if you are going to go to one of these things, you have to disclose it. And none of these things were disclosed without the WikiLeaks, Elijah. So really, there's so many things right now in this country that are totally corrupt. And, we could talk about many of these different things on the interview, but it's really just frustrating. I'm glad, though, that it's coming out, because I've heard stories, of these things for a long time, really, since I woke up after the 2008 financial crisis and I started to dig deeper. But, now with these WikiLeaks coming out, people are really starting to figure out, a lot of people who weren't as woken up as you and me, they're starting to, or some of your other listeners, how corrupt things really are, whether it's the media, whether it's rigging Democratic primaries, or other even Ron Paul, our hero Ron Paul. I know both you and me love Ron Paul. Ron Paul was screwed by the Republican Party from getting the election in many different ways. He was screwed in the debates. He was screwed from getting ample television time with the other Republican candidates when he ran. So, I mean, the Democrats doing this to Bernie Sanders, there's been tricks from both parties, but the amount of corruption from the Democrats is just on an order of magnitude surprising to most people.
Now, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the WikiLeaks revelations. Recently, we just saw more about the corruption in the media when it pertains to Donna Brazile giving questions to Clinton before some primary debates. This was released by WikiLeaks. What was your perspective on this?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I just think this is the first time that anyone was dumb enough to get caught, that there was a paper trail. So we know going forward now that, any of these cheating, rigging crimes that they do, and it's highly unethical. If you're a journalist and you're doing this, you're unethical. I don't know if you'll be fired. You'll probably be suspended first or warned. But I mean, it's extreme. At the very minimum, it's unethical. It's probably election fraud from the FEC. And, we've seen these videos from James O'Keefe of Project Veritas with the Democratic operatives bragging that they take orders directly from Hillary, which they're not supposed to be doing, that they're taking foreign donations, and that they've been rigging elections in different ways and primaries and things like that for over 50 years creatively. So when I hear these stories about the Donna Brazile, I really think that that's probably the smallest amount of all the things that we've learned in the WikiLeaks. I think it's much worse what we've learned about the Uranium One deal, where, Hillary is willing, she's such a hypocrite, she's such a liar, where she's willing to literally do anything for money. She's willing to totally change her position. This is not a woman that defends women's rights. This is not a woman that likes and defends minorities. Her public position and her private position are totally different. She is an intelligentsia, an elite. She thinks she's better than all of us. We know how she really thinks now about poor college kids who can't get a job, about minorities, about how she wants to help make everyone poor and turn the United States into UK with its socialist single-payer socialist medicine, universal healthcare medicine system. So, I mean, the Donna Brazile thing, it's nowhere near as bad as what Corrine Brown did. It's nowhere near as bad as the Clinton Foundation. I think it's good that we're finding out the truth about these things. And a lot of people are talking about that. If you're a Bernie Sanders fan, obviously it's bad. I think the nomination was stolen from Bernie Sanders. I think he had basically won a lot of states. And I think the Democratic Party, besides just this trick with Donna Brazile, used a whole bunch of different tricks to screw over Bernie Sanders. And obviously, they paid off Bernie Sanders. I think his net worth, Elijah, last year when he filed his net worth, it was only $900,000. Immediately when he drops out of the race, he goes and buys, I think, three expensive pieces of real estate. So I think he's worth well over $5 million now. Joe Biden was just joking recently that the socialist Bernie Sanders is worth more money than him. So I think Bernie Sanders was paid off to go away, even though he knows he basically would have won or won the nomination. And he took a big bribe to go away. Maybe he was scared of any retaliation if he didn't take the money. But it's just really amazing that we're finding out about all of these things in the WikiLeaks. And I would tell you, unfortunately, Elijah, that there's a large percentage of Americans, many of whom will vote for Hillary Clinton blindly in the election, that don't believe anything in the WikiLeaks. That think it was, Russian hackers. It was Russian hackers who did this, trying to distort. They'll believe whatever the narrative that Hillary Clinton and the mainstream media will tell them. Everyone who's listening to this podcast, unfortunately, has friends or family members that don't believe anything that comes in the WikiLeaks because it's a conspiracy theory. Who cares where the information came from? I don't care if it was Russian hackers. I don't care if it was Iranian hackers. I don't care if it was, people in the DC government here, in the Democratic Party, or Republicans, or people in the U.S. intelligence community who leaked the information about Hillary Clinton, because we know there's a lot of U.S. intelligence agencies who have copies of all the emails, all these emails. So it doesn't matter where the information comes from. All that matters is that we're getting the truth right now, and we could try to interpret that as we see fit. But unfortunately, there's a very large percent of the U.S. population still, it may even be over half, who still believes that, it doesn't matter what's in the WikiLeaks. I only trust the mainstream media. People will start to wake up, though. And I think we're going to see Donald Trump actually win the popular vote in the election. But I think Hillary Clinton still has a lot more tricks up her sleeve to try to steal the election. There's an expert called Bev Harris from Black Box Voting. She says with George Soros, electronic voting machines and others, that besides, just rigging the polls with oversampling of Democrats to make it look like Hillary's winning the mainstream polls, that they already have a lot of the electronic voting machines rigged with fractionation of votes. I'm not an expert at that, so I would tell your listeners, if they want to research that more, they should go and search Bev Harris of Black Box Voting and go look up her interviews for more expert analysis on that.
Now, one of the things that we were talking about before the interview is it seems like there might actually be an internal coup against Hillary Clinton right now. Can you discuss about this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people in the U.S. government who do not like Hillary Clinton. Now, they will not publicly say this. The Obama family does not like the Hillary Clinton family at all. The Clintons and the Obamas are actually big rivals. They actually hate each other. Now, Obama was willing to, I think, go along with Clinton for a while to protect her. But now that things are starting to really unravel, I think he may disassociate himself with that. But there's a lot of people that, when the tape recorder is not on, they're not going to come on a podcast. They're not going to go on TV and talk about this in an interview. But privately, among a conversation, maybe the cell phones are maybe they check the cell phones to make sure they're turned off, check for recorded devices. They're going to tell each other how much they hate Hillary Clinton. There's a lot of people, even Democrats, in the U.S. government, government agents, government bureaucrats, especially in the intelligence community, Elijah, because of how careless she was with the classified data on her private email servers. I was listening to an interview. This interview is from August. Your listeners can look this up, from Judge Andrew Napolitano. And he was saying that his sources in the intelligence community think that Hillary Clinton, her negligence, her gross negligence with classified information led to many deaths of U.S. intelligence officers abroad because of how careless she was. So if your best friend or your friends for a long time had been killed because of her carelessness, you know, you're going to leak information. And I think that's another reason why Comey came forward. I only mentioned a couple reasons why Comey came forward. The other reason being, besides saving his own ass, was there was going to be a mutiny in the FBI. There was obviously there's some agents that are hardcore Democrats. There's a lot of Democrats in Washington, D.C. I would say a lot of people living around here that work for the government, more than 75% of them are Democrats now. It used to not always be this way a decade or two ago, but things have changed a lot in the last 15 or 20 years. There's most of government employees now are Democrats. And, it's acceptable to say if you like Bernie Sanders, but it's Hillary Clinton and Obama mostly now for the most part, although a lot of them like Bernie. But there was a lot of people within the FBI and smaller amounts within the Department of Justice. But we know from the WikiLeaks that in the Department of Justice, that's where Hillary had most of the people, her moles protecting her, besides just Loretta Lynch. We just found out today in today's WikiLeaks that John Podesta and Hillary Clinton had a mole directly within the Department of Justice that was giving them warnings about their original private email server investigation. So there was a lot of FBI agents, Elijah, that over a year ago, when the Clinton private email server scandal hit, they had spent all this time and effort combing through the emails. She had ignored a subpoena. She had used BleachBit to destroy the emails and her private server. She had destroyed Blackberries with hammers and tablets. And they were really angry at that because they had done their job. They thought they had proved the case that, she had committed all these felonies. And then here Comey was with the original investigation going on TV. So there was going to be a mutiny in the FBI, and the FBI was going to lose an enormous amount of credibility there if it didn't reopen the investigation. So I think Comey had a very tough decision, and I think ultimately he chose to try to rebuild some of the FBI's credibility at that point and try to save his own ass. I think those were two of the main things. And the other thing with Comey and the FBI is, like I said, I think a lot of people inside DC now, even Democrats, we're starting to see some YouTube videos from more well-informed Democrats who acknowledge that the WikiLeaks are true. We're starting to see more Democrats acknowledge that Trump is going to win the popular vote now, even with all this manipulation and rigging. I think it'll still be a close election because there's going to be a lot of blind people that are going to vote Hillary. There's going to be different ways to try to manipulate the election, either with polls or voting machines. And obviously the mainstream media is still on Hillary's side. But I think a lot more honest Democrats are going to see that the writing is on the wall, that Hillary is going to lose the popular election. And even if Hillary does win, Elijah, I mean, she could very seriously, this FBI investigation, we don't know how long it's going to take now. She could easily be indicted, and impeachment charges could start while she's president. There's rumors that Obama may pardon her. But those videos that we were talking about the attempted coup by the Clintons, and then the people in the intelligence community and the government insiders who are fed up with the Clintons, thwarting them, that they were stopping Hillary Clinton from getting a pardon. So it looks like Hillary Clinton will probably lose this election if there's not that much vote rigging. WikiLeaks says it was from the start a power consolidation exercise by the Clintons, meaning all the manipulation and vote rigging and control of the media. So that was the original plan, and it was going to succeed. But these other things coming out with the other thing, Elijah, too, besides the 26 Podesta emails, is that what we could have very soon is all 33,000 emails from Hillary's private email server released. So the rumor going around from multiple sources is that we're supposed to get that before the election. So I would have preferred they would have released that a lot sooner so people could start going through it. But as long as they release it at least a couple days before the election, it's going to be very damaging to her at the polls with the undecided voters. There's still probably a pretty good portion of Americans that are somewhat undecided at this point. What I hear from my friends who are undecided is they don't like either candidate, Hillary Clinton or Trump. And what I try to tell them is that Hillary Clinton is a lot worse person than Donald Trump is. Hillary Clinton's a career felon. Plus, she could potentially start World War III, with the no-fly zone in Syria and the other crazy stuff that she has planned for us.
Now, you're saying that Trump is definitely, it seems like, going to be winning the popular vote. Now, do you think the polls that we are seeing right now, it shows Clinton 1 or 2 points ahead on, if you go to Real Clear Politics, it averages all the polls. It's like about 2 points ahead nationally. So I guess my question is, do you think the polls are rigged right now, or is it because of new revelations that are coming that you think that Trump will win the popular vote?
A mixture, a combination of those things. So I think the polls are rigged. It's kind of like the U.S. economic data that we have right now. So you know how like GDP, they keep saying, oh, GDP is growing, but it's not growing as fast. Well, that's not counting the real inflation rate, and it's counting consumer spending, consumers who are already in debt taking on even more debt. It's counting any government spending is positive. It's counting the Obamacare premiums rising, which is taking away your discretionary income. That's counted as positive GDP. So we know that economic data from so many different countries is skewed. What has happened is we have these PhD statisticians and pollsters who are so good at figuring out how to tweak their formulas for polls. And this also was mentioned in one of the WikiLeaks releases from the Podesta emails, is they talked about during the primaries how to make Hillary look leading. And one of the ways they did this was oversampling Democrats in a poll. So right now, I've listened to Bill Mitchell. Your listeners can go watch videos of him. Bill Mitchell, he has a radio show too, and he seems pretty knowledgeable about how to research the way that polls can be tweaked. And he says that a lot of these polls that are mainstream are counting Democrats, they're oversampling Democrats by 9 points or more. And they're removing Republicans or independents from polls to make it look like Hillary Clinton was way ahead in the polls. And we've seen what I would say, even though you said on Real Clear Politics that the average Hillary is still slightly winning, I would point to the last couple weeks, how a couple weeks ago, Hillary Clinton had a double-digit lead, right? She was up by 10% or 12% in some polls, and now it's down to 1 or 2. So I would say the momentum to win the election now, with all this extra information out from Project Veritas, James O'Keefe's videos, from WikiLeaks, from the FBI reopening the investigation, when you add all these things, this is positive momentum for Trump and negative momentum for Hillary. The Hillary Clinton campaign, Elijah, is getting so desperate at this point. They're accusing Donald Trump of being a Russian spy. So they're planting these stories from political hacks. I don't know if they're getting paid off or they just love Hillary Clinton or what, but these guys are writing articles in Slate and other online websites saying that Donald Trump is a Russian spy, or he has a secret email server connection with a Russian bank. It's just totally ridiculous at this point. From what I've heard, Donald Trump doesn't even use emails. So I mean, and people are believing these stories. Not everyone, but some people. I guess Hillary Clinton is trying to make sure that her brainwashed followers, a lot of them, are still going to stick with their vote. But it's definitely turned into reality TV here, Elijah. We're seeing, the first election where social media is so prevalent. This is the first election where almost everyone has a smartphone. Almost every adult now has a smartphone in the United States. So people can go on Twitter really quickly and look at news, and you're seeing instant reactions from things. So it's turned into basically reality TV every day. As someone, I don't really like either candidate, although I think Donald Trump is probably less likely to cause World War III. But it's just amazing seeing, all the crazy things people say about their candidates and stuff like that. I will be really happy when this election is over, because I'm just tired of all the drama and, all the either propaganda or crazy stories that are coming out. It's it's just amazing because, I mean, Trump was a successful businessman for a very, very long time. And you would have think with these accusations that people would have come forward. But then all of a sudden, they're all released in the last month or so of the election. But then you have, on the other side, all the other stuff. So I would tell your listeners to just that I don't think either candidate's going to fix the economy. Trump may be able to help small business a little bit more than Hillary Clinton, but it still sounds like he wants to spend a ton of money, borrow even more debt, and go into infrastructure spending. And we all know with government spending that's not going to be used that efficiently. But for the sake of peace and prosperity, and not World War III, I think Trump is probably a better candidate right now than Hillary Clinton. Although, I think I'm going to vote for Gary Johnson still at this point. My mind is not fully made up. Either I'm going to vote for Gary Johnson or I'm not going to vote at all.
So mentioning that, Clinton is saying that it's Russian hackers that are doing these email leaks and that Trump has ties to Russia, you've pointed out that the only link with any of the candidates to Russia is actually Clinton and her campaign chair, Podesta. Can you discuss about this?
Sure. So I got in a Twitter argument with a PhD professor of entrepreneurship at George Mason, and he was telling me, he was sending me all these articles from the Washington Post and New York Times, from all these excellent journalists, right, proving that Trump has legitimate connections with Putin and Russia. And I was telling him, look, the only real concrete proof that we have that any of these candidates running has any connections with Russia and Putin is the huge amounts of bribes that Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation and John Podesta took for doing the Uranium One deal. Okay, we know John Podesta was paid in shares. We know he transferred them over to his daughter to hide that. We know that Hillary Clinton doesn't want to talk about that. She always changes the subject. We know from the WikiLeaks also that the plan was she actually wanted to run against Trump. She thought he would be easy to beat. She was totally wrong about that. He's not easy to beat. Not for her anyway. So, and the Hillary is just such a hypocrite. This is a woman that says that she's for women's rights, but at the Clinton Foundation, she pays men more than women. Okay, this is a woman, besides just women, another example about her hypocrisy of women's rights is she takes so much money from Saudi Arabia and Qatar, who treat women absolutely totally poorly, barely like human beings. And yet, she's on TV commercials in the U.S. and she's with Hollywood celebrities and musicians. And they're like, oh, vote for Hillary. She's so great. And it's just unbelievable that when you try to point this stuff out, how big of a hypocrite she is, people just won't listen. I could go on and on naming examples of all her different hypocrisy. She's very anti-gun, but you'll never see her without an army of lawyers or an army of bodyguards. So it's just unbelievable. You can't trust anything this woman says, really. She only tells the truth when it's convenient to her. And, we know from the WikiLeaks, Elijah, that she has been planning for a while to talk about Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin's bromance. So we know from emails that were in 2015 that she was planning this if Trump had won the nomination.
Well, Jason Burek, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, did you want to share with the viewers any last thoughts you had and where they can find you online?
Well, I would prefer to talk about investing in the economy, but we've had this election right now, so I've kind of enjoyed all the drama. I'm glad that people are finding out the truth about the Clinton Foundation. Charles Ortel is another freedom fighter. The Department of Justice should be investigating the Clinton Foundation. That's the real crime there. I've talked about Hillary Clinton being a criminal, committing lots of felonies for 30 years. You can do your own research on that and some of the other crimes I mentioned that she's just in the last year or two during this interview. But the Clinton Foundation is the 800-pound gorilla. There's so many people in Washington, D.C. making corrupt 6- or 7-figure salaries off the Clinton Foundation that that's how they've gotten it, so no one will prosecute them, besides just the Department of Justice and Loretta Lynch protecting them. There's a lot of people with their hands in the cookie jar who are making money from this illegal charity fraud, this massive global illegal charity fraud that's over $100 billion. And there's been a lot of victims, like the poor people of Haiti. Unfortunately, the Clinton Foundation, the Clintons themselves, stole billions of dollars from the poorest people in the world in Haiti. They raised, with George W. Bush and the Bush family, they raised billions of dollars after the earthquake in Haiti. I think it was 2010 or 2011. And, only about 6% or less of the money went to the poorest people in Haiti. They were supposed to rebuild homes and roads and infrastructure and provide food. And, there's been none of that. So the hypocrisy is just amazing. There's a lot of people protecting the Clinton Foundation. My hope is that there will be honest people in government that are willing to actually do the prosecutions. Not only is she unfit and unqualified to be running for president or president, Elijah, she is unfit to not be in prison the rest of her life. The stuff that she has gotten away with is really unbelievable. It's as bad or worse than some of these other Wall Street banksters like George Soros and John Corzine. She's just a career criminal. And when I try to tell this to regular people, they just don't believe me, because like, oh, she's a grandmother and all this other stuff, who are mainstream. So it's just very unfortunate. I'm glad that the election will be over very soon, because I'm just tired of talking about it really more than just this interview. I'm just frustrated talking about it, and people don't believe me.
All right. Well, can you remind people how to find you online?
Sure. We have the Wall Street for Main Street YouTube channel, which is about investing in the economy and not a lot about politics. So if you don't want to hear about politics, you can go over there. That's wallstreetformainstreet.com, WLSTFRMAINST.com.
All right. Once again, thank you so much for your time, Jason.
You're welcome.